Hey guys, welcome back to A Page in the Chapter, or welcome if you are new here. My name is Paige, and today I am giving you some short and easy reading recommendations. This is both helpful for if you are in a situation like me where you are massively behind on your Goodreads goal and you just want to give that one last final push in these final stages of the year. There's some good recommendations for that. This video is also good and helpful and full of recommendations for if you are in a reading slump and you just want something quick and easy to read that can A, pull you out of the slump, but B, make you motivated to read again, because there's nothing like finishing a book to motivate you to start reading more. So that's the plan today. Hopefully that's fun. Hopefully you get something from this video and there's a book in here that you haven't heard of or you're interested in reading. If you want to see more recommendations, I have a whole playlist entitled Reading Recommendations, and there's so many videos in that playlist, so feel free to go and check that out if you want more books to read. And also feel free to hit that big red subscribe button down below and stay tuned for future content. I upload twice a week on a Wednesday and a Friday, so there is no shortage of bookish content here. You never know, you might really gain something by subscribing. Who's to say? Let's get into the recommendations. So my first recommendation is kind of a new favourite of mine. I read it right at the beginning of 2021, The Wizard of Oz by Frank L. Baum. Not only is this the cloth-bound edition absolutely stunning and sparkly and amazing, this book is also just the coziest thing in the world. It's different to the movie, and like most people, I didn't actually know that the movie was based on a book, because the movie has just become so popular that it's taken over the book. But when I saw that it was a book, I was very excited to read it. This is really short, really sweet. It is aimed at children, so we're gonna fly through it. And it's just really, really cute, and I really enjoyed seeing the differences between the book and the movie, because whilst the movie still captures the magic, and there's just really interesting lines in this book where you can see how it influenced the movie, it's still fun and unique because it has its own elements that the movie didn't cover, so it's not boring. So this is a real win-win of reading the movie in book form but without getting bored. The next book that I have to share with you is Again by E. Lockhart. This has a fairly low rating on Goodreads, but I loved it. I gave this 4 or 5 stars, I can't quite remember which, but I really enjoyed it. If you like The Midnight Library but you want a more YA romance version, this is that. This is your reading alternate timelines but make it YA romance. So this follows our main character Adelaide, and after dealing with some family catastrophe and her love life kind of falling apart, she is facing the possibility of falling in love over one summer, but the book is told as alternate realities of different text conversations, different interactions with different people, and showing how the different choices she makes and her own ideas about love and humanity will influence those decisions. I can see that it gets meh reviews because it's not quite clear when you're jumping between the different timelines, but I really like that, and I really liked how ambiguous it was. I think that's E. Lockhart's style, and I just really enjoyed this. It's very sweet because it's told in alternate timelines. You've got different text conversations and shorter chapters and different characters that you meet, so you kind of read through it really quickly because it doesn't feel like you're reading a lot. And yeah, this is about 230 pages, and a lot of it, as I said, is text conversation, so it's written like that. So you can read this very quickly. I read it in a day whilst in a reading slump, so you could definitely do this. Then whilst we're talking about E. Lockhart, I feel like I should just go ahead and get this one out of the way, and that is If We Were Liars. This book was absolutely massive back when it first came out, when BookTube was in its heyday. This book was massive, and now that like TikTok has taken off and BookTok is in its heyday, this book has blown up again, so it's really standing the test of time. And I'm not gonna tell you anything about this book. If you haven't read it, then you kind of have to go in blind. I really recommend going in blind. It made it a much cooler experience to have absolutely no idea what was going on. I read it quite a few years ago now, but I gave it 5 stars, and I'm sure that I still would today. It's got really big writing, and it is, again, about 230 pages long. Another nice short one, not necessarily an easy read, but definitely like short and gripping to get through. And then to switch authors, we have another 2 books from a different author. So the first one is Stardust by Neil Gaiman. This is like a kind of Christmas wintry favourite of mine. I will be rereading this as soon as the Christmas tree goes up. I just enjoy this book so much. I enjoy the movie. I will be watching the movie when the Christmas tree goes up too. I love them both for entirely different reasons. The movie is very childlike magic, and this is very same cozy vibe but make it a bit more adult. So this follows a town called Wall in the Victorian era and a boy called Tristan who promises his crush Victoria that he will go and catch a fallen star for her, and if he does then she will marry him. And this adventure takes him across the wall into this kind of magical realm where he discovers all kinds of adventure. This is my favourite Neil Gaiman. I think because I grew up watching the movie, it just holds a special place in my heart. So I really, really recommend this. It is less than 200 pages and just really fun fantasy / magical realism / historical fiction, like really, really good. And then we have The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman. Now, if you saw my most recent wrap up, you'll know that I only gave this 3 stars, but the reason I think that this is going to be a good short book for reading slumps or completing your goal is that it is graphic, and like as you're reading you have like whole pages that are just graphic, so it's not as big a book as it looks, and it's just its own whole reading experience. And someone on my last video actually pointed out that this is like a Jungle Book retelling with like ghosts and ghouls and set in a graveyard rather than a jungle. And that analogy has actually made me like it more. I'm really glad that someone pointed that out. So this follows our main character, Nobody Owens, and he's been raised by ghosts in this graveyard since he was a baby. And whilst it's about him discovering all of the creepy and different types of creatures that live in the graveyard, it's also about him growing up and realising that humans can actually be the biggest danger. Honestly, this was really fun. I've heard great things about the audiobook and I might give it another go. We're still like technically in spooky season, so you still have time to pick this up and be in the right vibe. And so then we have a more recent read, and this is very like classic YA romance. For most people it will be a reread because this book was so popular back in the day. But rereads are fun, rereads are fast, YA romance is fast. This is all just, it's going to be a fast read. And so that is To All the Boys I've Loved Before by Jenny Han. This is the biggest book of the 3 in the series, but you just read it so fast and so many of the pages are just Lara Jean's letters. And I'll be honest with you, I skipped most of the letters because they didn't really say anything that I didn't already know. So you can skip those and it doesn't really impact the story too much. It's nice big writing, and as I said, it's like a YA romance but very like 2014 YA romance, so it's written a little bit younger and simpler than how YA is kind of evolved to be written nowadays. Really recommend this. Just as a nice quick, honestly really cozy read. It just has the perfect vibes if you're in a YA romance mood. And I realised I never said what this is about, but honestly I just kind of assume that everybody knows what this is about with the books being so popular and the Netflix movies. But just in case, on the off chance you don't, this follows Lara Jean, and anytime she has had a crush on a boy in the past, she has written them a love letter as a form of catharsis and to get over it. And then one day these letters get sent out and the boys receive them and it's all a big kerfuffle. And honestly, it's really good. It has a fake dating trope, which is kind of my fave. and I really recommend this. And so my next pick is one that I actually haven't read yet, but I wanted to include because it's one that I am genuinely going to use in the last half of this year and like is on my November TBR as a way to read a short book to help me boost my goal. And so that is A Man Called Uwe, and I've now learned how to say his name. So yeah, A Man Called Uwe by Frederick Buckman. I can't seem to say that word without sounding a bit like a chicken. Has anyone else noticed that? Anyway, I think really any of Frederick Buckman's books, no, it still sounds like a chicken. I think any of his books really can fit towards helping you with this. This is the one that I have, and this is the one that I'm going to use. Honestly, this is very up vibes. Grumpy old man, us as the reader realising that he's actually very sweet and cute and we should do everything to protect him. That's really all the blurb gives away. I haven't read it yet, as I said, so I don't know. This is 289 pages, so it is a bit longer than some of the others. But I just think it's gonna be so sweet and cute and so accessible. The writing is small, granted. Maybe this won't be as short of a read as I think it's gonna be. I will let you know when I finish it. But since this was like the first one that jumped to mind when I was looking for my own books to boost my goal, it just seemed like it should go in this video. And then we have another of my all-time favourites, and that is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. And as I said, we're still in spooky season. You still have time to pick this up if you haven't ever read it. It looks like a big book, but that's just because it's a penguin cloth bound and it has thick pages and the author's notes and notes on the text and all of those sorts of things. The actual story itself is really short. 225 pages. So nice and short. You can find different editions with bigger text. The one that I studied at school was a really short book with really big text, so honestly it just depends on how publishers format it and publish it, but you can definitely find ones that don't look very big and are much easier to read. I absolutely love this story. I think it's so short, so fun, with some really beautiful lyrical writing, and just Mary Shelley is a bad bitch. Like, we stan Mary Shelley on this channel, and we're gonna keep talking about Frankenstein until everyone in the world has read it. Then my penultimate book on this list is Verona Comics by Jennifer Dugan. Bit of a wild card. I don't normally talk about this book, but this was just, it was good fun. It's really short too. It's less than 300 pages long. It looks short. It's really pretty, and it's fun. And because it's fun, it will help with the reading slump, and it will just, you'll get through it quickly. So I wanted to include it even though it's not the shortest book in the world, because it's still a romance that's on the shorter side. That's quirky and cute and contains all these comic references, and it's just adorable. So this is a Romeo and Juliet retelling. Ugh. I know, but this one's still kind of fun. And it follows our main characters and their parents own rival comic book stores. One owns a very quirky indie comic book store, and what the other is like a big corporation. And this corporation is trying to buy the other character's indie comic book store. It's just really fun. I'm like kind of talking myself into rereading this book a little bit because it was good fun. And again, a lot of it is like text message chains. So whilst it seems like a lot of pages for a short book, it's really not, given the text size, the fact that you have more than whole pages that are text conversations with big spacing, and the fact that it's just good old-fashioned romance fun. And then we are on to our final book. Piranesi by Susanna Clarke, which this is a short book, but is not quite as fun as a romance, but you know, I enjoyed it. It's a different tone, it's a different example of something fun. If you're in the mood for something a bit different and a bit of a how the hell do I classify this genre, how the hell do I classify what's going on in this book, if you're in the mood for that kind of thing, this is the book. So this is about our main character, Piranesi, and he lives in this big house. He lives alone in this big house. We don't know where the house is. We don't really know anything about the house other than the fact that Piranesi lives in it. And he goes around and he talks to the statues and he makes notes, and he's quite anthropological really in his research. And every now and again a man called the Other turns up and Piranesi will do tasks for him, and this is the only contact that Piranesi has. Until one day messages start appearing in the house and someone new enters the house, and it is about Piranesi trying to get to the bottom of this mystery. And this book is unlike anything else that I've ever read. I'm still confused by it to this day, but in a good way. It's about 245 pages with big writing, and it's just like, it's a very easy read. I flew through it when I read it. The inside covers are so pretty, and it's just, I don't really know how many times I can say a book is fun or easy to read, but I recommend it, okay? It has little quotes from Madeline Miller and Erin Morgenstern, and the writing style and the style of it actually does remind me a little bit of The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern, so if you like that, you might like this. I can't say anymore. I'm sick of repeating the same things. I'm sure you also give it too. Just add this to the list if you want something short and unique. This is it. And so here are all of my recommendations for short books to help you with a slump or your Goodreads goal. I'm not judging. I'm 10 books behind on my Goodreads goal. I will not be catching up because that's a lot of work, but I will be delving into some of these just to help, just so I don't fail as miserably as I'm currently failing. And there's just absolutely no judgment here. You do not have to complete your Goodreads goal, but if you are still committed to it and you want some short books, here are some of my favourites. Here are my main recommendations. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I do hope you enjoyed and you found some recommendations in here that you didn't know about or you'd forgotten about or something. If you did enjoy this and get a recommendation out of this, why not hit that big red subscribe button down below. You can also give this video a thumbs up and leave a comment if you want to have a chat, or you even want a message that you didn't like one of these books, that's fine, but feel free. You guys can also check me out on Instagram and Twitter for updates on how my Goodreads goal is going, updates on my dogs, who are my main selling point, and what I'm reading and how I'm reviewing it, that small thing that you definitely have no interest in. I'm in a weird mood today. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I do hope that you enjoyed. I hope that you are having an amazing week, you enjoy everything that you are reading, and there are no reading slumps in your future, and I will see you for my next video. Bye guys.